What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's doing good. Check this out. I saw this little clip on TikTok about this Latino or Hispanic guy throwing a lot of shade and talking crazy about Black Americans. So what I find interesting about this video, he tried to use the Tyler controversy, and you guys probably know who I'm talking about, the South African singer who is having issues with her fan base in Black America. She don't want to admit that she's Black. So there's a big controversy surrounding that. So this particular Hispanic guy used that incident as the context to make all these accusations against Black Americans. And he cast Black Americans as the most hateful people, at least in the diaspora. He goes on to talk about the murder rate, all the white supremacist talking points. He hits almost all of them in about a minute. So I want you guys to listen to this particular clip, and then I'm going to give my commentary on the back end.
These are the richest blacks in the world, yet they are the most hateful, racist, and xenophobic blacks in the entire world. We should not be surprised by how Black Americans or African Americans act towards other people. African Americans or Black Americans have to be the most hateful and self-destructive diaspora of Black people in the world. Are we even surprised by the way they're treating Tyler? We shouldn't be. These people project hatred through various forms of media and self-destruction within their own communities. They are currently responsible for the most murders within the African American community in the USA. In fact, African Americans are responsible for most of the murders that take place in the USA currently. We should not be surprised by these people and their attitude towards Tyler. The way Tyler is so proudly African, it irritates the spirit of Black Americans. It irritates the fundamental makeup of their being, because in Tyler's presence they begin to question their own heritage and where they come from, where their language comes from. The only language they know is English. They know nothing of their native languages. They have been stripped of their roots.
First of all, let's tackle this notion about 13% of Black Americans and 50% of the murders. All right. I'm going to play a short video that's going to deal with that more in depth. But what the crime statistics don't show is that within that Black population of those who are in prison or who have committed crime, it doesn't break it down in terms of ethnicity. So it doesn't talk about whether these people were Caribbean, whether or not they were African. You know what I'm saying? It just says Black. So that is the category. It's white, Hispanic, Black, or African American. So when you see that, you're automatically going to focus on Black America. You're going to be drawn, and you're going to assume that all the people in the criminal system or the criminal justice system is Black American. And Caribbean people, African people who are committing crimes as well, who are committing murders as well, get to sit back and let all the attention be on Black Americans.
Hey, did you know Black people in the US are responsible for most of the crime in the US despite only being a small proportion of the population? Unbelievable, right? Well, yeah, actually, in this case, literally, it is not believable. This meme is built on a falsehood. The 13-50% haha so funny nonsense has been a staple of modern anti-Black racism in the US, so let's break it down and see why it is nonsense. Known as the 13-50% meme, it's a statistic wielded by racists that claims that Black Americans, who make up just 13% of the population, are responsible for 50% of violent crimes. This sounds damning, but only if you don't think about it for more than 5 seconds. The stat is pure bullshit. The truth regarding crime is far more complicated and interesting, and it's very important to firstly note that crime statistics in the US don't really reflect who commits crimes, but rather who gets policed, arrested, and ultimately targeted by a centuries-old oppressive system that has adapted to the shifting attitudes towards being an overtly racist ghoul. This meme originated from FBI crime reports, specifically the Uniform Crime Report and National Crime Victimization Survey. These reports focus on arrests and victim reports, not on the actual total of crimes committed. Arrest data reflects the decisions made by law enforcement, which are influenced by racial biases, of course, rather than serving as an accurate measure of who is actually committing crimes. But with very careful cherry-picking, racists who seek to uphold a certain level of oppression use this data out of context to make it appear that black communities are uniquely prone to violence, when in reality the number reflects the priorities and biases of a criminal justice system that has always disproportionately targeted black people. So let's dive into the truth. In the United States, African Americans and their communities have always been treated with systematic surveillance, suspicion, and violence from the American state. Starting from slave patrols to keep slaves in line to Jim Crow laws and lynchings, simply existing in the US as a black person was a danger to one's safety and life. In the modern era, the streets of black neighborhoods are patrolled by military-style police, similar to occupied territories and war zones. Schools are much the same, run like prisons. Over-policing has seeped into every corner of African American life, creating an atmosphere of fear coupled with invasive surveillance. Crime statistics in the United States do not reflect who commits the most crimes, but rather who is most heavily policed and arrested. This cannot be overemphasized. Over-policing in black communities drastically inflates crime statistics that are then, by a spectacular feat of circular reasoning, used to quote-unquote prove that African Americans are more prone to criminality. Black neighborhoods are subject to far more intense surveillance than white neighborhoods, which naturally leads to more arrests and prosecutions. This over-policing is not a reflection of higher crime rates, but of the biases inherent in the criminal justice system, which consistently over-targets black populations. For example, in New York City, stop and frisk policies almost exclusively targeted black and Latino men, leading to wildly inflated arrest statistics despite the indisputable fact that they were no more likely to be engaged in so-called criminal behavior than whites. In fact, this cycle, where arrest statistics are used to justify the continuation of oppressive policies, fuels the perception that black communities are more dangerous, further embedding these biases into both public policy and societal views.
Shout out to the Daily Rap crew. They're always out there, trying to hold it down for black Americans. They oftentimes deal with this diaspora war stuff, right? And they always have guests from the diaspora trying to say that we don't have any culture. And they're always trying to explain what our culture is and what it is and what it's not. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate what they were doing. But I like one thing the brother said. He said, I'm going to play a clip of that particular segment where he talks about trying to explain to the diaspora. So basically, our culture is so mainstream. What I mean by that is so interwoven in American culture that many people from the outside looking in can't see that it actually comes from black American culture. So what they do, they focus on the negative. They focus on the negative things about our culture, oftentimes promoted by white supremacists in the media to perpetuate the negativity within our community. And certainly there is some negativity in our community, like all communities, but ours have the spotlight, unlike any other group. And here's the thing. I don't know the actual percentage, but I'm going to, guess. I would say maybe 12 to 20% of our people is acting a fool. It could be less than that. Most of us are going to school, going to work, paying our mortgages, doing all the things like any other citizen is doing. But for some reason, because of anti-blackness, the spotlight is always on us about the negativity. And a lot of the jealousy and the envy that comes from the diaspora focuses on that and try to somehow diminish who we are as a people.
We are American, or we have 400 years of generations that are here in America. We built a culture out of nothing. Yes, you could say some of it was inspired by African cultures and whatever the case is. I'm not taking that away, but we have built it from scratch and it's uniquely ours. You get what I'm saying? So whether it's however you define culture, from music to dance to literature to food to however whatever aspects or category you want to define culture as, there is something specifically unique about Black Americans that we have that nobody else has. True. HBCU culture is very black. Is not even very. Is Black American. Like, you can go to any HBCU campus and you will see Black culture, Black American culture. You talk about the music. Yeah. Whether it's any genre of music in America, it has been came from Black Americans. Like, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's jazz, blues, rock, hip hop, freaking techno music, like pop, like country, every genre of music has came from Black Americans. Whether you the dance style, how we dress is very uniquely a Black American. Our hairstyles is uniquely barbershops, gospel is Black American. Like, I could go on and on. Honestly, the foods that we eat, soul food, all of it is Black American. And so when you fix your lips to say Black Americans don't have no culture, then I know you're just being disingenuous at this point, because you know what Black American culture is. Again, it is, because our culture is so mainstream. Of course, you could look at the negative. You know what I mean? So that's when people say, "Oh, what is gang violence Black American culture and baby mama?" But like, you go anywhere in the diaspora and you can see those same gang violence, black on black violence, baby mama. Like, you could see this within any culture in the diaspora. It's just we have a magnifying glass to it because we are mainstream. You get what I'm saying? If you dig deep enough in your culture, you will see the negative things about your culture as well.
For sure.
So again, you can't just fixate on one part of the culture or a negative aspect and just highlight that part and be like, that's Black American culture. I never thought I would have to defend my culture from people that look like me. We live in America. Like, we are the minority in America. And I thought I would be having these conversations about culture with white people, you know what I mean, with Hispanic people, with Indian people. I don't have those conversations. Only the people that look like me in the diaspora that are questioning the culture, questioning X, Y, and Z, and it's like, that's the part that's very frustrating for me.
It's deep rooted in programming, and when I say that is, how when you speak to a white person or Asian person, and you ask them something about Black Americans or whatever the case may be, they're like, I can't be racist. I got a Black friend. It's some sort of that same line with the people of color, maybe Jamaican or whatever Caribbean place, or even African. And it's very disingenuous for, these people from these cultures to still spew that. And a lot of people want to defend them and say, hey, that's not how real Africans really love you guys, or Caribbean people really love you guys. Hey man, I'm telling you, my father is Jamaican, you know what I'm saying? And that side, I identify as a African American Black man. I know people like, oh, why would you even say that? Yeah, you're Black. But there's a different society when you go to Jamaica. They look at you like, yo, you Black, you American. So there is a difference, and people don't really realize how much of it is it's not fair, because when you look at the stereotypes that Black men have to live with, Black men and Black women have to live with, they don't take account to all those Caribbean peoples, those African people, or any other blackface person that lives in America that comes from another island who gets arrested for the same thing. We don't talk about they don't have a statistics for African men who get arrested for murder, or African women that's on food stamps. No, you're still in the same category as Black Americans that you shit on daily. So this is why it's frustrating. And to really have to defend our culture, that people come here and steal daily. Like Eli said, you guys wear our dress how we dress, talk how we talk. That's a part of our culture. Eat what we eat. That woman saying, oh, I don't eat slave food. Like, if I can be really grimy and say, yeah, well, I eat my food with a spoon. I don't eat like that. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's how frustrating it gets me. You get what I'm saying? Because you got to hear this stuff, and I got to sit here and be like, well, let's be respectful. Then it's just like, nah, all gloves off. I could talk shit about.
I always think it's a good idea, right? Before you make accusations against another group of people, that you self-examine yourself and your people in your home country and see whether or not you have any right to say anything about Black American cultures. Because when you look at the world, especially in Latin American countries and in African countries, you talk about hate, talk about hateful things in Africa, right? In some countries, you could be sentenced to death for actually being gay. Actually, there's mobs of people killing people because they're gay. That doesn't happen in America. You talk about hate. In Ghana, there's a village of just albino people because the melanated people in Ghana think they're cursed. So they don't want to be around them. Think they're from the devil and all of that. That doesn't happen in America amongst Black Americans. You talk about violence. Before I go to violence, even in Latin America, they have laws. Well, they don't have laws, but they have incidences where they're killing gay people. So you talk about being a tolerant people compared to Latin American countries and compared to African countries, we're more tolerant. So I reject the notion that we're hateful or we're the most hateful in the diaspora. That's pure nonsense, right? So let's talk about violence and murder. You guys in Latin America are the worst. Y'all the worst. Even in some parts of Africa, the worst. Let's go through it. Now let's look at some of the most violent cities in the world. 2025, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Zamora, Mexico, Manzanillo, Mexico, Tijuana, that's Mexico too, Zacatecas, Mexico, and Guayaquil, Ecuador. Here's another list. We got Pietermaritzburg, South Africa, Caracas, Venezuela, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, San Pedro, Sula, Honduras. Here we got a U.S. city, Memphis, USA, Salvador, Brazil, Port of Spain, Trinidad, Guayaquil, Ecuador. I think we did that before. Tijuana, Mexico, Cali, Colombia. So here you have all the majority, think about it, Latin American countries. But yet he want to talk about the violence amongst Black Americans. Then he has the nerve to talk about language, that we only speak one language. Again, look in the mirror, dude. Look in the mirror. You guys come from Latin America. You speak a European language, which is Spanish. A lot of you can't speak any other language, but somehow you convince yourself that that's an indigenous language. And you got the nerve to talk about us speaking English, which is a European language as well. You're no better than us. You're trying to throw shade on us. Again, look in the mirror before you start making accusations about us. Let me show you how dumb these people are. He's trying to throw a whole bunch of shade on Black Americans because they speak one language, which is English, is a European language. Again, trying to say that we have no culture, right? Yet, let's look at some countries in Latin America that only speak one language as well. And guess what? It's a European language. They hardly speak anything else. Look at this. Costa Rica, Spanish, the sole official language, and is spoken by nearly the entire population. 99%. Where's their indigenous language? They have none. El Salvador, Spanish is the only official language with near universal native fluency, 99.7%. Here you got Panama. Spanish is the official language and is spoken by the vast majority of the population, 92%, according to Monthly Blog. I mean, it's crystal clear, guys, right? It's just envy and jealousy that all this attention is on us. All this negative attention is on us because they simply cannot measure up. When you compare what we've done in terms of accomplishments, in spite of being a minority in a particular country. Most of these people come from the majority. And they doing nothing. So that's where it comes from. Pure jealousy and envy. So if you haven't already, subscribe, thumb up the video, share this information. It's so important. Until the next time, peace.
You wouldn't send them back to...
Oh, no.
Where are they, in McDonough or France?
McDonough 19, and my little boy, he's in the room, Miss Myers' room with the 3 little...
I see. And you took your boy out the first day?
The 3 little girls that woman was talking about were Leona Tate, Gail Etienne, and Tessie Prevost. Just days before that interview, the 3 girls had become the first black students to integrate the all-white McDonough 19 elementary school in New Orleans. And they each had to be escorted by armed U.S. Marshals because there was a very large, angry crowd of demonstrators protesting their presence.
My mother telling me before we left the house, when the marshals arrived to pick us up, she said, when you get in that car, you sit to the back of that seat and don't put your face to the window. The street was just overwhelmed with people.
And I just felt like if they could get to me, they'd want to kill me, and I didn't know why.
The protesters were shouting threats, racial slurs, spitting, and chanting, "We don't want to integrate."
The only thing I could associate this with was Mardi Gras. We got there, we got out the car, and my daddy said, "Give me your hand." He said, "I'm here." He said, "Look straight ahead."
We got in the classroom. I remember parents coming in and just grabbing their kids by the hand because the kids sitting at the desk and just yanking them up and taking them out the classroom.
After a while, it was Leona, Gail, and myself, and the teacher, Miss Myers.
Only 3 students to attend McDonough 19 that entire school year.
We were not allowed to eat from the school. The water fountains were turned off. The only time we saw outside was when we came to school in the morning and when we left in the afternoon.
Now let's run it back to that first interview for a second. Pay attention to what the reporter asked.
Where are they, in McDonough or France?
McDonough.
France or McDonough? See, Gail, Leona, and Tess integrated McDonough 19 on November 14th, 1960, the exact same day that Ruby Bridges was escorted by U.S. Marshals to integrate William Frantz Elementary School, also in New Orleans. William Frantz and McDonough 19 blocks away from each other. All 4 of these women are civil rights heroes. The story of Ruby Bridges went on to rightfully become famous, known in paintings and movies and textbooks.
Ruby Bridges.
The McDonough 3 are mostly forgotten, erased, barely even mentioned in history.
Left McDonough 19 after 2nd grade. McDonough 19 had become predominantly black. And the thing was to keep us in a white school. So we were transferred to TJ Sims. This time we did not have U.S. Marshals or police protection. That was not a good experience.